Thank you for staying tuned. And before we begin the conversation on mitigating flash flood and urban planning, we have some reports in that regard. In recent years, experiences of flooding across states of the Federation and the FCT left many with bitter lessons, with relics still glaring. But have the people learned their lessons, you ask, especially with experts, mitigation and safety advice? Abdullahi Ajia's report takes us through the FCT's experience of the Trademore Estate and other areas with perennial flooding.
It is the rainy season and the rains are getting more frequent and intense. Experts' predictions and precautionary measures are handy for the safety of lives and property at this time.
Once there is a heavy downpour, there will be flooding, especially in areas where we have human activities that are obstructing the free flow of water. People build on waterways. People dump refuse indiscriminately. People build without making adequate provision for the free flow of water. And when we advise them, we go out on sensitization. We tell them not to build on waterways. We tell them the repercussions.
The Federal Capital Territory, like some other parts of the country, is of course having its own share of flash floods. This development has come with its attendant challenges of damage to lives and property.
In view of the recalcitrant nature of the citizenry and the attitude of just not wanting to do the right thing, we get repeated occurrence of this development and again. So it's just a circle in itself. But the authority is not deterred to continue to ensure that it implements the Abuja Master Plan and maintain the sanctity of the plan to ensure that the plan and its vision for an aesthetically pleasing city for people to live, work, and recreate is restored.
In this case, the Trademore Estate and other communities like Galadimawa and other adjoining areas recently experienced surge. Town planning professionals and emergency responders say such experience is not unconnected with lack of adherence to environmental and building regulations. With authorities still emphasizing prevention and proactive mitigation, the latest safety warnings are coming from the federal government, where it alerts 18 states and the FCT for probable flooding. In Abuja, Abdullahi Ajia, NTA News.
All right, before we continue with the news, we have to join our outside broadcast crew to get the Vice President's speech at the ongoing Nigeria Excellence Awards in Public Service. Let's see that. To pick up with our conversation on mitigating flash flood and urban planning, and we have a guest in the studio, Engineer Clement Nze. He's the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Agency. Engineer Nze, this is one issue talking about flash floods that has been ongoing. You have been part of this advocacy for a while now. And if we're talking adaptation, preparedness and response, what measures should be put in place, for the nation to have the capacity for flood resilience and also response capabilities?
Okay, thank you so much for having me tonight. Now, this has been a yearly event by my agency, the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency, to issue timely warnings ever before the onset of rainy season every year. Like you rightly mentioned during the introduction, that the prediction we had, which we released much earlier in the year, placed 148 local government areas in 31 states at red alert, being on the highly probable flood incident areas, and additional 249 local government areas in all the states and the FCT have been identified to experience another degree of flooding in the course of the year. You are talking about mitigation, adaptation. That seems to be the major focus of some tiers of government. My agency's major main thrust of its activity has to do with prevention. Ensure that there is a preventive measures taken ahead of time. That is why the information is released much earlier in the year, so that the sub-nationals, individuals, will know their own part of the deal, what they need to do to ensure that in the course of the rainy season, nobody is caught unawares. But quite unfortunate that year in, year out, we end up having a kind of a fire brigade approach. Drainage systems are blocked, which ought to have been cleared during the dry season. After each rainy season or flooding season, you can identify, even after 6 months, the signature, the flood marks on structures. There could be buildings, there could be bridges, trees, telling you this is within the confines of the flood path. Whatever is within this perimeter should be removed. But unfortunately, nothing is done most of the time.
Okay, Engineer Nze, and it's good you're mentioning the concerns. This waste management has been part of the concern. From the report we saw, most residential areas do not even have a proper drainage system. They rely on the natural drainage channels. What would you say? Because you talked about it some time back. You said it's a collective approach if we must adapt the flood risk management.
You see, estate developers are fond of developing their properties without any infrastructure, in particular drainages, roads. So we boast, I got about 5 hectares of land to develop, maybe 200 houses. This is a natural environment that has been existing. And we are coming now to put a structure in that environment. You are now reducing drastically the space that is meant for the drainage, the runoff water to pass through, to percolate into the soil during the rainy season. You appropriate the entire space. You ought to have provided drainages, roads, before the buildings are put in place. And mark you, just as you have provided houses for human beings, you must provide for flood. If there are 100 plots to be developed, why not dedicate, like say 30, to build the drainage system that will be able to convert the excess runoff into available drainage system or open channels nature has provided, or rivers that are available. But what we find that we build up everywhere, more than 90%, 95%. No environmental impact assessment study carried out before putting up such structures. Because we are going to interfere with nature, and nature must fight back. That is why, in the course of rainy season, especially when it is a rainfall of high intensity and longer duration, like what happened in Lagos State, it rained for some days. There are nothing that can be done at that stage. The excess runoff, which we call flood, must find a way, and in the process, destroy some facilities. Some people will lose their life, unfortunately, like what happened some years back at Treadmore. And I think this one, even this year so far, we learned about other 2 people have been declared missing at Treadmore Estate here in Abuja.
Okay, Engineer Nze, the question will be who is to blame when town planning laws are distorted? We'll pick up with the conversation after the break. Stay tuned.
LifeMate Furniture, kitchen cabinets, wardrobes and sanitary ware shopping festival starts on the 8th of July. Buy whole house customization and bathroom products and enjoy mega discounts and gifts covering all types of furniture. Visit www.elifemate.com or call 081 2000 6000 for more information. LifeMate, your life mate forever.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Before we engage our guests, let's bring you a report. Flooding remains a major challenge. We've established that. But in Lagos, it's a different case entirely, especially during the raining season. Factors like surface runoff from heavy rains and the impact of human activities cause obstruction. Diana Ajale takes a look at how this flood situation in Lagos is and how it's been managed with urban planning.
Lagos State, a mega city with a population of more than 20 million people, is surrounded by water, with many inhabitants residing in flood-prone areas. The congested nature of Lagos State has also led to compromising town planning rules by developers.
Most of the buildings, where they are building, where there is no passage of storm water, there's no fluid, all these things can cause perennial flooding.
Communities, particularly around the coastal areas, need to adapt sustainable practices, build by lifting up their buildings above, sea level. Victoria Island, Lekki and Ikoyi are below sea level. So that is an affluent community. It's important that resilience measures are put in place.
What measures have been put in place by the state government to monitor and enforce building regulations?
All those building on fence, on gatehouse, on power line, on drainage will go and will not stop at it. We are going to make sure that we enforce. It's not only on Lagos Island, it's going to be everywhere in Lagos.
In terms of mitigation, the Eco-Atlantic coastal city essentially was to protect our coastal line. We have also succeeded in creating a lot of canals and so on in order to discharge the storm water when it comes. That's another one. We dredge our waterways from time to time in order to create cavity for water when it comes so that we avoid tidal lock.
Other strategies for preventing flash floods, experts say, include construction of physical structures to reduce the impact of flooding, maintenance of existing drainage channels, and effective early warning systems. As the state government intensifies efforts to check the devastating impact of flooding, residents have been urged to refrain from clogging drainage channels with waste. Those in low-lying areas have been advised to relocate to higher grounds for safety. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
And Eze, anytime you see Lagos, it's always a sorry sight when we're talking flooding. And of course, experts say that flooding can be controlled when there's proper planning, or especially in the aspect of urban planning. What long-term, solution would you proffer? Because this is an issue that we cannot stop talking about.
Thank you so much. So long as we have the rainfall, there is always that incident of a flood. We are concerned when it leads to disaster, where some lives might be lost, properties that are lost. We are even better than some countries of the world that are able to control the flood. Like Netherlands is below sea level, much more compared to Lagos in particular, far below the sea level. But they have been able to conquer the flood, putting certain structures in place to ensure that it doesn't bring disaster once the flood comes. Now in Lagos, in fact, I was caught up there on the 24th of June in Lagos at Victoria Island. Maybe the people, they already know the route. That's why they were able to drive through. Those structures that are obstructing the free flow of the excess runoff, the storm water. They have to be removed. They have to be removed. I remember here in Abuja, around 2005, when El-Rufai was the minister of Abuja, several structures were removed. Some of them 3-story buildings were removed. The current Federal Minister of Works, Block A is not there. What you have there is Block B. Block A was demolished completely. Some hospitals were removed. So there should be political will to do the needful. Remove every structure. Like I mentioned earlier, you will see the sickness already. These are the marks of the flood telling you this is within our own range of movement. Again, there is need to always do environmental audit. After each rainy season or flooding season, let the government, relevant departments go to town, clear all the drainages, because during the flooding season, it comes with all kinds of waste. Clear them during the dry season, not when the rainy season is already here with us. Like somebody mentioned, I was in Bayelsa State some years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, adaptation. There's an estate that was being built that time. The level of the first floor, measured from the ground, can contain a vehicle. A vehicle can go underneath. That should tell you the height that have raised the floor. So that no matter the level of flooding in Bayelsa, that particular location, that particular estate will not be affected.
Okay, so Engineer Inze, what about the aspect of awareness? I know this is something we get to hear year in, year out, but we can't get tired of it, especially engaging communities and, you know, especially people who build on floodplain areas. These are your final thoughts I want to hear now.
At the federal level, there are 2 major agencies that have been involved in issuing warnings. NIMET issues warnings about rainfall amount you will expect, the duration and so on. The Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency, NISA, goes further to translate some of those things into flood and issues warning. These warnings are cascaded down to the states and local governments. We are creating awareness. That second and third tiers of government should be able to pick up from there, educate the citizens within their own domains about how they should act. I saw some pictures from Lagos where some households were locked, they were padlocked by government. Why? When it was raining and the runoff, storm water was passing, they carried the refuse and threw on top of the, into the environment. That is enforcement. We have several laws everywhere, town planning laws, Minister of Environment, each state has all those things. But when it comes to enforcement of the laws, we are weak at that. The law should not spare anybody so that we don't keep losing lives year in, year out, to keep talking. We have been doing our own level of sensitization, but we expect that the states should do more. And the individuals should change their attitude, how they dispose waste indiscriminately. And the developers, town planners should wake up to ensure that before you approve any building plan, look at the environment. Is it going to bring disaster to the environment, to the people, or is that facility going to enhance the livelihood of people?
Okay.
So that's my final thought on this. That's what everybody's business it should be, to secure our environment.
Engineer Inze, just before I let you go, let's watch this report together. We hear that many cities in Nigeria suffer annual flooding with devastating consequences. Well, stakeholders in the environmental sector are harping on the need for authorities, just like what you're saying, to keenly implement the city master plan. Let's see this report from Port Harcourt by Robinson Derataide.
Flash flood regularly occurs during rainy season in most cities, particularly in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. Beyond their proximity to crisscrossing rivers and lakes, some of the cities in the Niger Delta expanded onto reclaimed land. Consequently, structures get erected on natural waterways, many without proper recourse to master plans. As a result, during the period of extended heavy rainfall usually experienced in the Niger Delta region, displacement of people and animals, damage to farmlands with other property, while impact on national assets and infrastructure have become an annual challenge.
You find that most of our people dispose our waste to the drains when the rains begin to fall, expecting the water to move it to wherever the water wishes to. And the process of that sits up the drains, thereby reducing their capacity to hold storm water.
You don't build houses on waterways. You don't block drainages or block waterways where water was supposed to pass naturally. When you do that for your selfish benefit, what happens to the greater society? It's going to cause floods.
A case in point is the one almost happening at Eleme, because of land reclamation, and all that. And then we're also seeing something similar happening around Eastern Bypass, that place where we have a hypercity. And then even around Air Force area.
People living in flood-prone areas are advised to relocate early as flash flood moves quickly, leaving disaster in its wake. Robinson Darateide, NTA News.
Engineer Eze, we just had to share that report with you, for you to tell us your final thoughts just before I let you go. What would you react to? Or rather, how would you react to that?
Okay, so far, the challenge we are grappling with right now is brought about by heavy rainfall of high intensity and long duration within catchments. As we inch into July proper, August, September, we are expecting the likelihood of river flooding. Nigeria is located within Niger Basin of 9 countries, right from the beginning of River Niger in Guinea-Conakry, coming from there to Mali, to Niger, to Benin Republic, and also that's for River Niger, then for Benue, Cameroon, and Chad, and there are other countries, Côte d'Ivoire. So they may be coming to Nigeria when we are approaching the peak of flooding in this country. And also
all right, Engineer Eze, I'm sure this is not to send fears, to anybody, but early preparedness and effective disaster management can mitigate these flood disasters.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Engineer Clement Nze. He is the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. Thank you for your contribution on Weekend File.
It's my pleasure.
All right, let's take a break to ponder on all of that. We'll be back. Thank you for staying tuned. Let's find out what's happening on the global scene. Global Update is next.
As his victory was announced by the country's election commission on Saturday, his voters had flocked the streets in Tehran and several other cities to celebrate even before Iran's Interior Ministry announced the final result. Masoud Pezeshkian is a 71-year-old heart surgeon and member of the Iranian parliament. The new president has been critical of the country's notorious morality police and caused a stir after promising unity and cohesion as well as an end to Iran's isolation from the world. In the past, other Nigerian British politicians have also made history in UK politics. Helen Grant, a British Nigerian politician, became the first African-born Conservative MP in 2010. This latest crop of Nigerian British MPs join a growing list of trailblazers who are making a significant impact in UK politics. The successful candidates have been praised for their hard work and dedication to their constituencies and are expected to bring a unique perspective to the House of Commons. Newly elected UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Saturday began his first full day in charge with a meeting of his cabinet after his Labour Party's huge victory, which ended 14 years of Conservative rule. Starmer held the first meeting of his top team with Britain's first woman finance minister Rachel Reeves and new foreign minister David Lammy in attendance. The Labour leader told his ministers it has been the honour and privilege of his life to be invited by King Charles III to form the government, reminding them of the enormity of the work they have to do. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
And that's Weekend File. Thank you for your time. Do have a good night rest. I'm Ruth Aguilera.